Hey, how's it going, guys? You're building your PC and you get to the point where you have to apply the thermal compound to the CPU and you're not sure how to do it. Well, stick around, I will show you different ways and how much do you need to apply, as well as why we need to use the thermal compound. I'm Jose Daniel and welcome back to another video. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next videos. I have a playlist for a video editing PC, you can go and check it out here in the link, as well as in the description below. So why we need to use the thermal compound and what is it? For the thermal compound there are different names. We have thermal compound, thermal paste and thermal grace. The thermal compound contains heat conductive metals and this is used in electronics and mechanical devices to improve cooling. Be careful when you use this one, as this is not easy to take it off from the cloth and from the skin, so you don't want to mess around. And why we need to use the thermal compound? Well, the thermal compound helps to fill in the air gaps between the CPU and the heatsink. This will increase the heatsink abilities to cool the CPU, allowing the CPU to run at higher speed and improving our system performance. In other words, when we overclock in the CPU, the thermal compound can deteriorate over the time. This will depend on how your CPU is generating the heat. The overheating for the PC could be caused for the fans, the dust on the components, and the overclocking of the system. If you often overclock your CPU, the recommendation is to change the thermal compound once a year. Before doing this, make sure you check the BIOS on the computer and make sure that the performance is working well or not, as well as the temperature for the system. The CPU's temperature operation normally is 75 degrees. So keep in mind that before changing the thermal compound. If you're using the computer in normal conditions, the thermal compound will last longer. So there are different ways to use this one. You don't need to use too much, as this one is going to us out to the sides and they make a mess around. You just want to use enough just to cover the air gaps between the CPU and the heatsink. So we have two presentations here. The first one is this one here with the injector. And you can see here we have 4 dots, and these are for 4 applications, so you don't need to use all of this. The other presentation is sometimes comes with the CPU or the heatsinks, is this one here, and in this case you will need to use all of this. So let's see and check it out what are the different ways to apply that. But first we need to clean all the surface with alcohol and using a cloth that doesn't leave any residuals. Don't use toilet papers or any other material that can leave residuals on the CPU and the heatsinks, because this is going to make you problems later on, as this is not going to dissipate the heat really well. So let's check it out and see what are the ways to apply them. This one is going to place the thermal compound in the center of the CPU, and then when we press down the heatsink, this is going to spread all around the CPU. The second option we have is the 5 points. We are going to place 1 drop in each corner and then 1 in the center. For this one, don't use too much, as when you place down the heatsink, this could us out on the sides and make a mess. The third option we have a cross or X, so this is going to make a line from one corner of the CPU to the other corner and then the other way around. The fourth option is the spread. For this one, we are going to place thermal compound in the middle of the CPU, and then using a clean palette we are going to spread all the material. I personally don't like this one, because when you spread the thermal compound you can take a little bit on the palette and then you're not going to use enough in the CPU. And option 5 and the last one, this is the touch direct cooler, and this is what we are using for this process, and basically you are applying direct to the heatsink. So if I have to choose one of the other options, I will go for option 1. Is the 1 point in the center of the CPU. When you apply any of those options for the thermal compound, after you place the heatsink, you can take it off and check how well is the spread of the thermal compound. But I don't recommend this, because this could cause air bubbles, and the idea is to avoid the air gap between the CPU and the heatsink and increase and improve the heat dissipation. Make sure you apply enough thermal compound and place well the heatsink on top, and then you don't need to check if it's well applied. So now you know why we need to use the thermal compound in our system, and we are ready to build our PC. I know everyone is waiting for that, and that video is coming the next week, so keep in touch. I just wanted to make sure to cover all the components and all the process before doing that, in case you are following the steps and the process to build the PC. So in the meantime, go and check out the other videos, share with your family, friends, hit the like button, leave your comment below, subscribe if you're not, and see you guys in the next video.